Good morning. Our theme for 2018 is Living the Science of Mind, and each month we focus on a series of short essays taken from the book by the same name by Ernest Holmes. And each month the essays are organized in topics, and you can see those topics on the banner that is at the entrance to our sanctuary. For example, this month's one you see right here projected up here. And so this month, February, our focus is this: self-awareness is not enough. It's a gentle reminder to us that being awake is a privilege. It's a wonderful privilege. It's too good to waste. Now, somebody might say, well, how could you possibly waste awareness? I mean, isn't it just what it is? Well, I can think of ways that I sometimes waste my awareness. For example, when I let other people think for me. Or when I take other people's ideas about the important things in life, like morality, spirituality, the meaning of life, without investigating it. I can think of another way of wasting my awareness. For example, by not paying attention to what is beautiful and glorious and uplifting in this life. Oh, here's a good one. I can waste my awareness by using my mind to try to change someone else to suit me. That's futile. That's a waste. Oh, here's another good one. By letting my awareness be gobbled up by unworthy stuff, dead-end stuff that doesn't lead anywhere. Oh, it's one thing to be awake. And the question then is, and what are you and I doing with that awakeness? And that is the teaching of the science of mind. That's the heart of it. The question, what are you and I doing with our awakeness? How are we using our minds? The science of mind is the teaching that we study here at the Center for Spiritual Living. And I can imagine someone asking one of us, yes, but what religion are you? Well, that's a little more complicated. And it's a little more personal because many of the people here identify with Christianity or Buddhism or Hinduism or Judaism or none of the above or all of the above, or some are questioning and undecided and exploring because we don't have a conversion mission. Our founder, Ernest Holmes, in his beautiful little book, Can We Talk to God?, he wrote about it like this: I believe in every religion that exists, for it is an avenue through which people worship God. I believe in my own religion more than that of anyone else, because this is the avenue through which I worship. I love that. Mine is mine, yours is yours, and it's all good, really. I mean, if anything, we're a teaching order. We offer spiritual instruction in such things as affirmative prayer, contemplation, self-inquiry, selfless service, devotional practices, circulation, charitable giving, the role of gratitude. We offer it to anyone who wants it, regardless of what faith tradition they identify with. And I guess if a person does take any of what we teach and practices it regularly and consistently, I guess that person might say, well, yes, that is my religion. So to answer the question, what is religion, which is the topic for today, I would say religion is whatever you and I do regularly and consistently that links us back to the truth of our spiritual identity. The word religion is possibly connected to the Latin word meaning to bind. And the word bind means to fasten tightly. So there's the question. What is it that you do every day that fastens you tightly back to the spiritual truth of your being? Because that is your religion. Now, it may or may not have a name, what you do. It doesn't really need a name. I guess what it needs is to be done, to be practiced in a regular, consistent, conscious, and obvious way in your life. The fact that you do it is what makes it a religion. And so then yours is yours and mine is mine. In another one of his beautiful little books, Living Without Fear, he goes on further saying, every person's religion is good for them, though it may seem inadequate to others. Religion has ever been an answer to the cry of the soul for something that is real, something which may be relied upon, a resting place for which every person instinctively feels a need. I had a relative who used to say that fishing was his religion. Fair enough. Why not? The only problem was that he would often come back from a day of fishing bad-tempered, tired, sunburnt, drunk. And I can imagine to the outside observer, it did not seem like his religion was helping him much. Oh, it was a distraction for him from life and his responsibilities. It was an escape, that's true. But it got me to thinking there really is a difference between a pastime and a religion. There really is. There's a difference between entertainment and religion. I guess, to me, for it to be a religion, it has to have the end result of reconnecting me with the spiritual truth of my being, and that experience ought to be uplifting and holy and helpful. It ought to make of me a better person than I was before, a happier person, a more helpful person, a kinder person. My religion ought to cause me to be filled with awe and wonder. It ought to inspire me to get up from whatever I'm going through and to reach out and express. It ought to bring that majesty that has been created in me by life itself. It ought to bring that out into a beautiful, unique, creative expression. It ought to give me hope and confidence in such things as possibilities and solution. It ought to fill me up with compassion and understanding. It ought to clarify my thinking, not confuse it. In Living the Science of Mind, the book that we are using all of this year, in the answer to the question, what is religion? Ernest Holmes writes, religion means our attitude towards God. Oh, we're going to explore that in particular on Wednesday Night Wisdom, the free classes on Wednesday night at 7 p.m. We're going to look at that, how my attitude towards divinity affects the way I get involved in life. We're going to look at that. Do I think life is kind of like a spectator sport? Or am I engaged in it? Am I using the mind that divinity created in me, or Am I watching other people use it? This is making me think of a humorous email I received from a colleague early in the year. He said, I've made a New Year's resolution. 2018, I'm getting fit. And I'm serious about it this time. I've bought an outfit. And I've hired me a trainer. And I went to my first session with the trainer. We worked out real hard. And when it was done, I said to the trainer, well, how do I look? And the trainer said, well, about the same as you did before. And he said, why? I mean, I've worked out. And the trainer said, well, we'll see you at the next session, and then we'll look. And he was poking fun at the idea of I can just drop in. Oh, isn't that a good one? I can just drop in. No, it's a bigger question than that. What do you do regularly, consciously, in an obvious way in your life? What is it that you do that engages you in your life and makes you a better person? That's your religion. Now, each religion may have their own versions of how to pray, of rituals and ceremonies and festivals. And whatever they are, the way they become effective in our lives is when we do them faithfully, loyally, so that they can lay down new habits and tracks in our hearts. I grew up Catholic, and I loved the ceremony and the ritual of the Mass. I loved it. I started very young, so I didn't always understand what was happening. I was too young. But I always felt something, and I really appreciated that. I felt holiness. I felt like I was part of something much, much larger than I am. And it turns out that is exactly what Science of Mind teaches. We are part of something much larger than what we are individually, something sacred. And religion is whatever I do to stay conscious of that, to stay in contact with that, to stay aware of that, to not lose track of that. So to me, whether a person goes to Mass or to the mountains, it doesn't matter so much. It doesn't matter as much as when they are done and they come back home to their family and to society, are they filled up with love, with hope, with charity, with power. As a child, I would go to Mass by myself. My family let me go to Mass. I would go regularly because I loved that feeling. I wanted that feeling of awe and wonder, and I got it there. Kevin and I were in France last year as part of our honeymoon, and he grew up Catholic too. And we were standing in the cathedral at Chartres, and a Mass started. And although it was in French, we both knew it so well from childhood that we knew how to participate. We had practiced it so many times that it had laid down a memory and tracks in our soul. And standing there in the cathedral in a foreign language in the middle of the Mass, it brought back that familiar sense of something powerfully loving, everywhere present, all around and in and through me. And I appreciate that. And as I grew up, I was allowed to explore different religions. I'm very grateful for that. I was given the freedom to do that. And what I found, to me, was that at the heart of all the religions I looked at, there was the same goal. The goal of being at home in the heart of divinity. And my own exploring brought me to a practice that worked for me, a practice that I do religiously because I trust it, because it connects me to the truth of my being, because it restores my soul. And this is what I do, and I do it almost every single night when I go to bed silently. I close my eyes, and you can imagine doing this for yourself as if these words are your own, in your own head, and I silently get my idea about divinity straightened out. So I talk to myself. Now imagine you're talking to yourself just like this. I tell myself, like you heard in the prayer, I'll say silently, there is a power for good in the universe. And I don't rush. I take my time with it. A power that is greater than any name given to it, I'll say to myself. Call it God. Call it the Mother. Call it Father. Call it universal presence. Call it the Prince of Peace. Call it the mind of creation. It's one and the same power. It's the energy of life itself. It is divine love. It is the ground of all being, and it is all that is. And I take my time with that because I want to get clear. I want to get straightened out, because the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to explore my relationship with this power. So I want to go into that from the right mindset. And I'll talk to myself silently and I'll say something like, oh, it's a beautiful and wonderful thing for me to consider, to realize that I exist within this one power. This one power that is the source of all creation. I'm part of it. My body, my mind, my soul, all formed from its creative energy. Even my ideas, I consider them to be inspired by divine wisdom. Its love pours through my love into this world in the form of kindness. Its creativity flows through my acts into this world in the form of brilliance, solutions, projects. Its peace expresses itself through me as inner stillness. And then I do something. I'll think of somebody in my life that perhaps is being challenged in the world right now, who's struggling, maybe. Or somebody I'm having a challenge with, maybe I think they did me wrong. And then I'll insert them right here in this prayerful contemplation. And I'll do it very simply like this, just by saying silently to myself, and imagine somebody in your life that you'd like to include in this way. And I'll say, and this that I know about me is also the truth of, and I insert their name there. And this that I know about me is also the truth, for example, of John. Because now the next part of my prayer conversation is where I'm going to talk to myself about the spiritual truth of this person. I say to myself something like this: I realize that John's life is one with divine life, and that there can be no separation between him and the life that created him. See, I'm not talking about his circumstances. I'm talking about the spiritual truth about him, and I'm telling it to myself. I'll say something like, he inherits the qualities of the Father. He loves with the love of the eternal Mother. He thinks with the wisdom of divine intelligence. His life is a blessed expression of the One. Like a light, he shines his brilliance forth. The divine one, him, a light within him that casts light on every step he takes, guiding him, a light that cannot be diminished by circumstances. And I take my time with it. If my thought strays, I come back to it. And if I dwell on it long enough, it's going to evoke a feeling in me. I'm going to feel something. Gratitude. And when I feel that, I will tell myself what's happening. In the silence of my mind, I'll say, with this prayer in my heart, I rest in a feeling of timelessness, and I touch upon gratitude. I feel it right now. In the silence of my own mind, I feel the holiness of this moment, and it fills me with a sense of gratitude. And I feel confident and joyful, and some inner voice is assuring me that all is well. And then I'll let it all go. And the way I let it all go is quite simply using the formula that we know so well. I will just say silently in my mind, and so it is. And then, if I haven't already fallen asleep, I'll start all over again for someone else. And that's my religion. Now, each religion has its own way of praying, its own way of coming back to divinity. Some religions use repeated prayers like a formula. I like that. It's very heart expanding. Some religions use meditation as a way of concentrating thought on a single point to expand the mind and heart. I like that. Some religions use acts of charity, devotion, as a way of connecting heart to heart. Oh, I love that. In some traditions, a symbol is used, like a graphic, as a devotional focal point. And the way it works is the people practicing look at the symbol. It's called a mandala or a yantra. They look at the symbol and they let the sacred images create in their mind a sacred space. It's a meditation. It brings the person to a feeling of sacredness and appreciation of the vastness of the universe. I like that too. Now, our stage decorator, William Abel, he has created a mandala for our own Science of Mind Center and installed it up there in the top of our stage, and I'm going to project it on the side in case you cannot see it from the back. Now I'm going to invite you to move within and to look at the mandala and to let your looking be soft and your thoughts cool as I talk you through the imagery. This is what he writes. A mandala is a sacred circle that represents higher consciousness. It is a visual symbol that allows an observer to settle into a heightened state of awareness. This mandala has our own Science of Mind symbol at its core. The symbol is a teaching tool that represents the flow of creation from idea through spiritual law into form and back. Encircling this symbol are 3 rings. They represent the threefold nature of divinity: spirit, soul, and body. Or you might say they represent Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. Or you might say they represent the Holy Trinity of Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Or you might say they represent the 3 gunas of Rajas, Tamas, and Sattvas, which are the constituent parts of creation. And around these rings are 16 blue lotus flowers, 4 for each of the cardinal direction gateways. The 16 petals could also represent the 16 first Yoga Sutras that outline the pathway to self-realization. And beyond these are 12 green lotus petals representing the cycles of life. 12 hours of the day, 12 hours of the night, 12 months of the year, or 12 zodiac signs. Then the religious symbols start at the top with an open black ring representing all known and practiced religions, since there are many more that aren't represented with a specific symbol. Moving around clockwise, we see Islam, Native American spirituality, Taoism, Sikhism, Celtic paganism, and a solid black circle representing all spiritual philosophies that are yet to be discovered. Then Judaism, Incan earth-centric beliefs, Buddhism, Hinduism, and Christianity. Lastly, the colors of the mandala represent the colors that correspond to our science of mind, qualities of the divine. From the candle lighting ceremony we teach our young ones in youth and family ministry, where a candle, a white one, will be lit with the saying, God is light, and the children respond, I am light, followed by yellow for life, orange for joy, red for love, blue for peace, green for beauty, and purple for power. So I invite you to keep the image in your awareness now by either closing your eyes and remembering it, or by maintaining your eyes fixed on the image to let the images and symbols themselves speak to you of holiness as we share a moment of prayer. Because I believe in the power of good, and I know that the law of good operates upon this, my word of prayer, I speak this word of prayer in my awareness with a freedom and enthusiasm. I speak it with a deep calmness and peace, because I know that I am governed by divine intelligence, and that this word I'm speaking, this prayer, is a channel for its inspiration, for guidance to flow through, and I'm at peace. I'm completely receptive to the idea of divine guidance. Right now, I'm living in a consciousness of expectation of good. So I take a moment to acknowledge the good that is around me and in me and through me, and I declare it to be the only power that is operative in my life. So I become aware that it is moving through me, even through the words I'm saying silently in my mind as this prayer. I become aware that this power, life itself, is what is directing me into constructive self-expression for the good of all. And so I easily and gently release all thought of fear from my mind. I lay down the burden of carrying the load of responsibility for life itself, for others. I lay down all trouble. And I let myself begin to look through it all, beyond it all, to the truth of oneness. I welcome the flow of divine ideas through me into ever-widening fields of possibility, and I realize that every good that I have ever experienced right now by means of this prayer is being increased, not only in my memory, but in my experience right now, and for everyone around me. Every joy I have ever witnessed or experienced is now being multiplied in my consciousness, and it has the effect of creating a new pathway, a new influx of inspiration through my thought, and I become aware and conscious that my birthright, and the birthright of all people and beings, is freedom and joy and goodness. And I have the sense in my heart that the divine presence is interpreting itself to me, through me, as love. A love that I touch and feel now and forever. And I invite you to let the next breath you take be deeper than the one before, followed by a sigh.